good afternoon. And at the onset, I would like to thank Professor Balramji, Dr. Kumar for giving me this forum to speak. And I also appreciate all the efforts that have gone behind with the team KSAS to organize such an event and to get people with different backgrounds at a forum to discuss a complex topic of consciousness. So, as far as I am concerned, I am a plant biologist by training and I am a scientist by profession. And probably my knowledge on consciousness is not even entry level compared to the people that are sitting there. And I've been given this topic of discussing plant consciousness. So I thought that the easiest way around is through the data existing, we'll walk through the slides and I want you to walk with me and let us try to together answer this question that are plants conscious? So before I could start this, I went to the internet searching for the answer to what is consciousness. And that is when I realized that I am not even touching the point of the iceberg. Because what I could gather from reading the few articles in this short time is consciousness is ultimate intelligence. This is what Sadhguru has been preaching, and I took that as a quick take-home message. It is everything that we experience. It is the awareness of stimuli in the external environment, in the internal environment, and itself having these experiences, right? So, and also interestingly, when I try to search for consciousness, I get to see a lot of articles on natural consciousness and artificial consciousness. The concept artificial consciousness is coming with respect to the robotics and the other field who are trying to develop into the aeronauticals and the aerospace and all of that. But the crux is something which is presented here. To be conscious, you must be alive. You must have some intelligence and there should be awareness. So on these three parameters, we try to together find out that are plants conscious? So we all know that plants are crucial for life. There cannot be any life without plants. And even as early as in the Rig Vedas, it has been said, do not trouble the trees. Why? Because they give protection to animals, to birds and the other living beings. So we recognize that plants are important and our life depends upon their presence. But then are plants alive? As plant biology students, we were given to learn that plants are actually living because they check the various parameters of life: growth, nutrition, excretion, respiration, reproduction, locomotion, because movements are seen in plants. Although plants are static, they stay in one place, but movements are seen in plants. So they categorize under locomotion. We are studied the various processes which are occurring in the plants, be it photosynthesis or respirations, which is respiration is something which is seen in animals also. So based on these categories, we can easily categorize that the plant has life. And like animals, like us, because we are animals, plants sense and respond to the physical conditions of their environment. And what are these physical conditions? The temperature, light, humidity, intensity, they are responding to them. Their requirement is very simple as vis-a-vis ours. They need only 3 or 4 things for life, and that is light, temperature, air and water. By taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen, they are making their own survival and they are ensuring our survival. And based on this, they are inhabiting different regions of the planet, right from deep inside the waters to high up the mountains. That means plant can adapt to the environment. They know where water is more, or where light is more, or where air, that is carbon dioxide, is more, and they will survive and thrive and adapt to that environment. But can they sense? Can they sense and adapt? That is the question. How does a plant know where it is? And if the plant knows where it is growing, that gives us an indication of intelligence in the plant. And the answer to that, when I went through literature, was yes, plants know where it is. Plants can see light. When you grow a seedling, you know that the plant will bend towards light. The classical example is sunflower. It will keep on changing itself as the sun moves. So plants can see light. They can hear the water. You grow a plant and you'll find them growing towards water. They even have the capacity to get inside our water pipes and draw out the water, which is very crucial for their existence so that we can survive. Then they can taste the nutrients. They can feel the touch. How? By sensing the soil, by sensing the composition of the soil. They can grow, when the soil is soft, the roots can grow and penetrate into the soil, they grow deep inside. When there is a hard boulder or there is a big rock, they will grow around the rock and cover the rock. And that means they can feel the touch, the nature of the soil. And they can smell the air. Air means these are the volatiles or the chemical compounds which are there. The mechanism which will tell a plant that yes, now I am in danger. There is a caterpillar or there is an insect which is feeding on my leaves. I am in danger and I must warn my neighbors for that. I'll come to this in subsequent slides. And this is what they do by smelling the air. So they have the senses. They have the senses to see. They have the sense to hear, to taste, to feel and smell. So can it be categorized as plant intelligence? Because yes, the plant knows where it is growing and it senses and then it adapts. And that is why we have almost every nook and corner of this earth where plants are growing. And this study, if we go back and look into literature, there was a great Indian scientist, Shri Jagdish Chandra Bose. He did lot of studies on this so-called dumb plant, dumb and sessile. Dumb means because it cannot speak, it cannot hear, and sessile because it is growing in one place. And he has written multiple volumes. This was as early as the beginning of the 19th century, where he did some experiments with plants and he recorded that there is no life reaction, even in the highest animal, which cannot be foreshadowed in the life of the plant. He was too early to realize that plants have life, plants make reactions, and he chronicled or he made notes of some of these reactions. Some of these findings that we are revisiting now and trying to understand the biology and the mechanisms and the communications of the plants. And there is a whole new branch in biology which studies the plant electron. Electrical signals are something which were thought to be present only in animals, in the nerve-to-nerve communications, right? But now people are recognized that this electrical signaling exists in plants. They can produce electricity as well as use these electrical communications for learning, for self-preservation, and also as a rapid alarm system against potential threats. And fortunately, even we could make some of these recordings. This paper was published as early as 2001, and we know the kind of difficulties we faced in trying to get it published in a reputed journal of plant science, where we showed that electrical signals can replace the requirement of light. The system was simple and beautiful. It is a sorghum seed. Now, whenever you take a seed, you put it inside the soil, the seed will remain inside the soil and only the shoot will come out. Okay? And in case of sorghum, which are monocot plants, this shoot is protected by a sheath, which is called a coleoptile sheath. As long as the shoot remains inside the soil, that is inside the dark, the coleoptile sheath is going to remain and it will not let the first leaf to come out. But as soon as it emerges from the soil, the growth of the tip will stop and the first leaf will be formed, it will turn green and will start photosynthesis. This is a process in nature. You continue to grow these seeds in dark, don't keep them in light. The plants will just grow tall, maybe even 6 centimeters tall, and the coleoptile sheath is not going to get removed, the first leaf doesn't come out. But you give a signal to the light, give a small, with the help of a LED or a narrow beam of light to the root. It will tell the shoot that yes, light is there, the coleoptile will stop, and even in dark conditions, the leaf will form. And what we made with the help of a great professor, Professor Malik, he is a neuroscientist, and he used to do neuronal measurements in animals. We managed to convince him to carry out these experiments for us, and we could measure that when the light signal comes to the root, an electric pulse goes to the shoot, and through this electrical communication, it tells the shoot that light is there, now allow the leaf to come out. Because if the leaf comes out before the light comes, that is while it is inside the soil, there are chances that it will get damaged and the plant will not grow properly. So there are communications which are happening in the plant. Yet, despite all these studies, we can say that plants are silent poets because we don't know. We have not seen or heard from them. So the question is, do plants talk to each other? And if so, in what way? It is definitely not the way in which we speak to each other or we imagine that the trees and the plants would be speaking to each other. But if there exists communication, then there must exist awareness. And to answer that, we again looked at what is happening in the plant. And the plant can actually communicate. So what happens is, if you take a plant and on one point of a lower leaf, you try to wound that leaf, you damage that leaf. Immediately a signal starts from there and spread throughout the plants. Okay, this is a calcium signaling, imaging of the calcium signals, and it tells how the signal emerged from the point of wound and is spread through the entire plant in the course of time. So the plant is telling the rest of its part that look, I have been damaged, and the damage control machinery gets activated. Similarly, when you are actually not damaging the plants, you take create a setup where in a jar or in a bottle some cut leaves are put and caterpillars are allowed to feed on these leaves. Now these leaves are very far from the actual plant. Some volatiles only through a pipe is connected, so that if there is something in the air, that air can go from the bottle to the plant, and people could measure that when these caterpillars were busy feeding on these leaves, the leaves of the other plant which were far away and which were only getting the air passing through the tube could sense that there were caterpillars around and could activate their defense machinery, which included, the trichomes get activated so that the caterpillars will have a tough time feeding on. So there are mechanisms. There are mechanisms by which a plant is telling other parts of its plant about what is happening in the environment. But what about one plant to the other? Is it possible? You see, you must have seen a banyan tree, nothing grows under it. Okay? Is it because the banyan doesn't allow something to grow under it, or there is a mechanism? So again, without getting into the details of the study, lot of studies have been done which have shown that plants, when leaves of two plants will touch, this creates kind of a signal which tells the roots to push the stem and the other leaves away from there, and there will be a certain zone in which nothing will grow. Right? This is called the crowding effect. And if you talk to a layman, to a gardener, or to a farmer, he will tell you, for this particular plant you have to make particular kinds of spacing. Into rice का पौधा है तो उसको पास में लगाना है, या wheat का उसको थोड़ा दूर में लगाना है. That he is telling by his observations. The reason behind is that the roots of one plant will tell the other plant to maintain a certain space or a distance between the two plants so that they can grow away from each other. And using this kind of communication, which consists of signals as exudates from the roots as well as hormones and chemicals, the plants also develop like and dislike. They have friendly plants and non-friendly plants. They are happy growing close to some plants, and there are others, they don't like their presence around, and they probably will not grow. And the classical study, which you can go back and check, is that of chili and basil. Chili and basil are best friends. Plant them together and you get a bumper harvest on the chili plant. Grow chili with another chili plant, the harvest will not be that good, because it likes to grow closer to basil as compared to chili. So there are plant-plant communications, and there are a lot of studies which are emerging. So these are just examples that I have taken to show that there are actually communications in the plants, and this communication gives us a hint that there may be a sense of awareness. So awareness, so can there be a spirit of the tree? Okay, we always talk about spirit of the tree, teaching us about endless giving, about sacrifice, about plant being the true Karam Yogi. We talk about trees where our great saints have attained moksha and have attained intelligence by sitting and meditating and praying under the tree, because it gives us energy, it gives us powerful inspiration, deep communication, all of that. But then, does plant have its own spirit? Now, if we go by Hinduism, it says that consciousness exists in all life forms, and it is probably exhibited in different levels. In plants, it could be in the sleep mode, and in humans, it could be in the alert mode. Now, if this is true, then what should be the fundamental basis of consciousness? It would be memory, because we should have some kind of memory of the responses that you are experiencing, and based on that awareness, the spirit or the realization would happen. And this has been beautifully captured by Professor Sokori in his book, The Sensory Biology of the Plants, where he has devoted an entire section on the sentient nature of plants, its memory and awareness. And what he says is that memory in plants does not involve any image. It has got nothing to do with the nerves or the brain. It may probably some kind of a primate memory. And we have seen that plant remembers. Plant can sense and it remembers where it is growing and it will adapt. A tree, for example, will remember that it is spring, I should flower, and it is winter, I should shed my seeds. There is some kind of a clock. This clock is set by its awareness to the surroundings. So it does have some kind of a memory. Now, in this stress memory and priming is something that we are studying as scientists. We are trying to study that if plants have the ability to store information from the environment and respond to it, then this can help the plants to adapt to the changes in the environment and improve its chances of survival. And this can be seen in Silaginella. This is the plant, very green. When there is no water, it turns into a dry mass or a ball. Put a drop of water and it would expand again. And based on this, and the nature of the plant, they can have different responses which can range from avoidance to escape to tolerance of stress. And what happens in priming is that when you have a plant which is given a first exposure to stress, it will remember, develop a memory, so that when it encounters stress again, it will be more prepared or more robust to answer that stress. And I can quickly explain this in the terms of plant growth using example of rice. What does the seed want? Light and temperature. When the light and temperature are normal, we got the seedling growing. But when light is absent and temperature is normal, the seedling will still grow, but it will be white in color, a state which is called as scotomorphogenesis or etiolated seedling. And when the light is normal, but the temperature is high, the plant will grow, will become green, but its height will be reduced. It would be in a state of stress. When the light is absent, but the temperature remains high, then the effect is even more stronger, and you get a still smaller plant which is very weak looking. But when the light is normal and the temperature is normal, and you prime the plant by giving it a short exposure to high temperature stress and then return it to the normal conditions, it actually grows better. And when you subsequently give it stress, it continues to grow in a much better manner. And this particular phenomena has been termed as thermopriming and is actually being used to sensitize or to prepare our plants to grow and respond to the changing climate, specifically the global warming conditions. We are looking at to understand what is happening at the genetic or the molecular level. We are looking at the various signaling mechanisms, how perception will happen, how it gets signaled to the nucleus, how the gene expression will be controlled, so on and so forth. And what in my lab what we are doing is, we are looking not more at the expression, but at the silencing or the switching off of gene expression. Expression can be the switch on and the silencing will be the switch off. And it is actually the balance between on and off which creates the optimum light conditions and would create how a plant can grow optimally. And this homeostasis will govern how a particular plant from a particular seed stock will perform in response to a particular stress or in response to another stress. So I'll not get into the details, but we did set up an experiment of priming and we found that there were some genes which were coming up specifically in the priming conditions. Now this is all hardcore molecular biology, so I'm going to run through it. And what we could find is wherever the gene expression was high, the switch was on, the off switch was repressed. And the reverse would happen, wherever you had to bring down the gene expression, the silencing would be turned on. Try to understand and identify the points or the nodes which are regulating the whole development of the plant by controlling this switch off and switch off. And what I can tell you quickly is, there is a protein called MIB, it's just a name, but this is a master regulator. It regulates thousands of genes downstream. It is regulated in response to different hormones which are there in the plant, and it is also negatively regulated by two silencers which are the microRNAs, and by doing so it would regulate the morphology of the plant and the time when it is expected to flower. Now this is not the only gene. There are 190 such genes in the plant, and one would come up at a particular time in the spatial and the temporal zone of the plant. Again, we'll quickly get through this. And if you look at the behavior of this gene and its silencers across different rice varieties, for in this case I have shown Pusa Basmati, the long grain rice that we eat, IR64 and N22. We picked up these because they vary in terms of heat susceptibility, with the Basmati variety being most susceptible and N22 being the least susceptible to heat. And they show a reverse trend with photosensitivity, because light and temperature work together. And if you could see that, you can see the bars changing. That means within the plant which is adapted to grow or respond in a different way, the genes are regulated in a different manner, and they are regulated both by temperature as well as light. And these form a kind of a complex circular loops through which the plants, I just need 2 more minutes, through which the plants can fine-tune the zones of their expression. So it is not expression, it is the balance between silencing and expression and how they would respond to the climate. Of course, we have gone ahead and done functional studies, and we have shown that if you overexpress one of such enzymes, you get more grain filling, and if you can knock out if you knock out one, then you get more grain filling, but if you overexpress one, then you get a lot of pseudo or empty grains, but the size is also different. Again, I'm not going to get into the molecular biology of it. We are trying to look at the mechanisms, and we are trying to use these to study the mechanism or the response of the plant to priming. But then coming back to the main topic of consciousness, as I have walked you through the slides, you can say that plants have a mechanism to sense the environment and process information for its growth and adaptation. They have some kind of a cellular mechanism to retain this test memory. So, since conscious experience is largely built upon memories, it has evolved as a system for storing and memories and storing the information and allowing us the time travel and re-experience the past events. So based on this, we can say that plants should be categorized as organisms with consciousness. They may not fit into the classical neural-based systems which are present in the higher animals, but yet they do have a system of recognition, they have some sense of intelligence, and they are alert and aware about their environment. So they do have some kind of consciousness. It is still that we have to put in a lot of efforts to try to understand their silent language, and try to understand the consciousness of the plant. So with this I would like to end, but before ending I must thank this one person, Professor Sapori, my guide and my mentor, and it is his lab, his vision and his lineage that I am representing here, standing in front of you, and hopefully we can do some more work on plants and try to understand their life, their communications, and then probably reach to the stage of answering that question that are plants conscious. Thank you so much.